What are the threats that you see, the gotchas? What is the overall picture of the security industry today?
Well, I'm lucky enough to live at kind of an interesting intersection of all the technologies out there with Akamai. I have access to a lot of data that most people just are never going to see. We are one of the largest content delivery networks in the world. If you watch an online sporting event, if you're streaming video of some sort, if you're going to a banking site, the odds are quite likely that you're using Akamai's work. You're using our network to get that there. So I'm able to see all levels of types of attacks, from the most noisy DDoS attacks where you're actually seeing somebody trying to send terabytes of data over a line not meant to handle it, to botnet attacks or credential abuse attacks, on down to the most minuscule web attacks like a SQL injection attack. So I'm able to actually do reporting and sort of develop stories based on that from different teams within the company. And my role in large part is to help make something out of all of those attack types, make something out of all of that data that Akamai can share with the world and show people what the types of attacks that are happening.
I would assume you have an array of analytical tools and skill sets of members of your staff. Could you talk a bit about that?
Across the corporation, we have literally dozens of people whose role is to do research. I mean, that is what they do. And so we have a report that came out this morning that is from our DNS group, the spring report as we're calling it. And a lot of what that's talking about is how DNS activity is an indicator of botnet activity. So when you see somebody using a bot, something so like the Mirai or any of the other big botnet names that people know about, Turdot or any of these, what you can tell a lot about is when they make their DNS requests, when they go try and connect back to their command and control structure, that really tells you a lot about the tools and types of data that a attack is coming from, that the botnet is getting to fuel the attack. So the command and control structures just give us a lot of information about what the capabilities are and who's being attacked for those specific tools.
So I gather it's an intelligence operation in which you're looking for all the robbers of data and trying to draw pictures of how they use it. Is that correct impression?
A lot of it is taking little bits and pieces of data from all across the internet and drawing inferences from them, of using machine learning and scripting and different types of, I hate the term, but artificial intelligence to actually get out there and sort of tie how all these different pieces to go together. And that's where that level of needing to kind of dig deep into the bits and pieces to develop the bigger puzzle is where we put a lot of our energy. It's where we want these people to be looking so that they can see stuff before anybody else does, and understand what the bad guys are going to be doing. We recently did some work on what we call credential abuse. So systems that are trying to go in and log in as you or me or somebody else using stolen credentials. And one of the things that we found about looking into that was that the entertainment industry, the gaming industry, and more importantly, the hospitality and travel industries are all seeing a ton of this sort of activity where people are just trying to use stolen credentials and lists and fake names to break into your accounts and see what they can find.
Do you have tool sets for tracing these threads, or is it a staff of geniuses?
Well, no, the staff of geniuses get together and figure out how to make the computers do it without us. And that's a lot of what it is. When you get to the scale of Akamai, of a large corporation that's seeing terabits of data every single second, you cannot do this sort of work based on people. You've got to build the intelligence in so that this is happening in a millisecond time frame. So yes, we have what was called Bot Manager for dealing with bots. We have a number of different tools, from our web application firewall to what we call CSI, that are around both stopping those threats as they're coming in, but also doing a better job of understanding them once they're passed. So yeah, we've got a whole series of tools that is what they do, is gathering and making use of that sort of information.
Can you give us examples of recent attacks and illustrate how you've resolved them?
Well, if you take, for example, the attacks that we saw about a month and a half ago, 1.3 terabits of traffic per second against one target. To give you an idea, that's about 10% of the total traffic between Europe and the U.S. So that was against one customer. And we were able to basically look at the type of traffic and drop it. It was a new type of attack that had just been seen for the first time several days before. And we were able to look at that traffic and go, look, that's not legitimate traffic to this site, so we'll just drop it all. And within minutes, they were back up and running.
Wow.
So.
Are there things that come to my mind? We've got the break-in at Facebook. We've had the Sony Pictures data capture. Are there places where you would flex your muscles and say, we took care of that?
Not too many where I can actually claim the name of the people in a podcast or in public, actually, I should say. There's quite a few that you've never heard of, where you never hear of them because we're there first. So there's literally dozens of those on a daily basis. But the actual amount of ones that you would have heard of, yeah, I try and keep us out of the news as much as possible.
Okay.
So.
The Marvel Pictures and Disney are doing a good job of alerting us to types of monsters, and that imagery crosses my mind frequently. Or when we talk about the entertainment and hospitality industries,
right?
I can imagine all kinds of break-ins, but your feeling is with Akamai's strength and tool set that you can actually prevent damage and be able to ensure your client knows what has happened and is prepared for the next time around.
A lot of the solution is to actually have the protections in place before the activity happens. And a lot of people don't think they necessarily need it, which is where we run into problems. It's actually getting the attacks in a timely manner that is really the hard part. So.